You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group, and co-hosts Uncle Mike Tosaw from St. Charles Wealth Management, along with Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian and Andrew the Rock Lobster Giovinazzi from OptionPit.com. If you trade options, you want to be smart about every decision. So why not choose the smartest platform for your trades? At Public.com, you can view upcoming earnings dates directly in the options chain. You can queue and execute multiple orders simultaneously. Easily view contract performance over time. And if you have a question about any stock, you can ask Alpha, their AI for investors. But want to know the smartest part of trading options on Public? Earning rebates on every single contract traded. No other platform provides options trading rebates, and they reduce your trading costs to less than $0 per trade. So, make the smart move and switch. The only options trading platform where you can earn rebates on every single contract traded. To learn more, please visit public.com/optionblock. Paid for by Public Investing. Options not suitable for all investors and carry significant risk. Full disclosures in podcast description. U.S. members only. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody. That music means we are back. Almost. We're coming into the home stretch here. Almost one final time here for the year that is 2024. What an eventful year it has been. But we're not done yet, listeners. Not by a long shot. Got a lot of OB and got a lot of network to come before them. My name, of course, Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com. Reminding you a couple of things at the top of the show here. A, if you're just listening to the Option Block, what are you doing? Listen to the full network. A lot of great stuff coming at you throughout the week. B, if you're looking for our app, it's being updated right now. I'll be back in the stores soon. I'll make sure I'll let you folks know when that is ready and available for you folks. And C, if you want to go above and beyond, you want to join us on pro Q&As during the week, you want to join us for options oddities at the end of the week, you want to get live streams, giveaways, goodies, all sorts of fun, theoptionsinsider.com/pro is the place to go to learn more. As we learn who's joining us on the show today, first, we go out to the hinterlands of Chicago. We are joined by the unclest of Mikes, Mr. Uncle Mike Tosaw. And then we dial the needle not down to North Carolina, but all the way up to Maine, to the dark and stormy shores, where we are joined once again by the rockingest of lobsters, Mr. Andrew Giovinazzi from OptionPit.com. I introduce them now, listeners, because they are sweating. They have their hands on the buzzer. It is crunch time. We are coming down to the wire in our 80s trivia battle for the ages, listeners. It has been a little bit of a one-sided battle, but we'll see if that can change towards the end of the year in our final few contests. So, gentlemen, get your hands on your buzzers. Here we go. All right, listeners. I have steadfastly avoided anything 80s wrestling related throughout the year because we did that for a year change. And also, it's not the Rock Lobster's wheelhouse. But that said, I have been drawn inextricably, unavoidably back into the realm of 80s wrestling by an event that happened over the weekend because WWE, I guess they figured they weren't printing enough money already selling out shows around the country. They decided to bring back a hallmark from the halcyon days of They know at the end of the day, everyone loves 80s wrestling the most. So what did they do this past weekend? They brought back a show that was a mainstay from the 80s. Saturday night's main event. It had 80s ropes, 80s entrances, 80s music. The refs were dressed like 80s refs. And, well, I'm not done yet, Uncle Mike. I was going to keep going. All right. Go ahead, Uncle Mike. If you want to answer, go ahead. I haven't asked a question yet.
All right, so I'm going to have to go out on a limb here because I thought that you were going to ask what did they bring back, and I was going to say Saturday night's main event. So
got ahead of yourself.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say, because they brought him back too, I'm going to say Jesse the Body Ventura.
Oh, damn it. That was the question.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, I thought for sure Rock Lobster might be able to see. He had a whole thing unmolested to himself. But Uncle Mike sticking the knife in and twisting it and then spitting on you for good measure, Rock Lobster. Oh, my goodness. Rock Lobster. Wow.
I didn't even need to hear the question.
Oh, my goodness.
You know, I could just complain like Tosaw. Like, this whole thing is fixed. You are the only two knuckleheads that know anything about 80s trivia in the whole country.
Well, that's why.
And yet I am subjected to some trivia game with it.
I was going to go to Jesse. I was going to mention, of course, his famous quote from the Predator, which he starred in. I thought that would get the Rock Lobster, which, of course, I ain't got time. I ain't got time to bleed. That was so seminal to him. That was the name of his title of his autobiography. If he couldn't get it, then I was going to throw in Governor of Minnesota. I didn't even need to get to the question. My goodness. Yes, Jesse the Body was back with the feathered boa. It was kind of good. I got to say, it's kind of good to hear Jesse the Body on the mic. Obviously you missed Gorilla Monsoon, the other half of that. But just hearing Jesse the Body just talk about wrestling with 80s ropes and 80s refs and 80s music and 80s everything. And they were dragging 80s icons. They put them in front row. There was Tito Santana was there. And even guys they were going deep. They went Coco Beware. Greg the Hammer was there. It was, if you were even remotely an 80s wrestling kid, they knew exactly who they were catering to with that event this weekend, listeners. So yes, Jesse the Body. Rock Lobster never even gets up to the plate. Uncle Mike hits it out of the park with the first pitch as we keep on rolling into the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the trading block.
All right, listeners, welcome to the trading block. And my goodness, what a mauling this 80s trivia. I'm starting to wonder, Mr. Rock Lobster, were you awake? Were you cognizant during the air? I even tried a Bob Vila one for you, just to try to help you dig yourself out a little bit. I don't think you even got that one, sir.
I couldn't remember his name.
There's only so much I can do for you, sir. I avoided 80s wrestling the entire year until this week. So, yeah, there's only so much I can do, sir. Maybe you got to buy an 80s encyclopedia and bone up. I don't know.
Listen, I'll tell you what, I'll make it easy. Just get a used thing, a Trivial Pursuit, and just pull questions out of there random.
But it has to be an 80s version of Trivial.
It can be an 80s version.
When they still had Brown and all those crazy categories.
There's too much pop culture stuff, right? And somehow Tosaw knows all this. I don't know.
There's a reason that I grew up to be 300 pounds.
Because you were inspired by Jesse the Body, sir. Well, all right. We could talk Jesse the Body in his return. He'll be back, 4 times over the course of the next year, listeners. So if you miss Jesse the Body, you'll get your chance to have a little Jesse the Body on the mic. It's kind of fun over there as we pivot into the markets. And, this weird kind of market. We're green, we're red, we're green, we're red. Most of the indices right now are firmly green. S&P up about 0.5%. NASDAQ feeling the bit in its teeth, up over 1%, almost 1.2%. Then we got the Dow doing its kind of Dow thing lately. Dow having a rough week, 7, 8, 10 straight sessions of losing, something along those lines. Off again today, off about 0.1%. And then our old pal small caps, just to be fun, they're up almost a full percent, about 0.95%. So a lot of green on the screen, but you know what else is green? VIX cash up about 0.6 of a point out there, almost 14.5, about 14.40 right now, puts it up about 0.6 of a point from where it was on the Thursday show as well. So vol remaining stubbornly firm in spite of it being the end of the year, in spite of all the just green we're seeing on the screen. Obviously, things popping off overseas that are at the very least eyebrow raising. Two of our largest trading partners in the Eurozone now having serious governmental crises going on over there. Germany, the latest government apparently to topple over there. So yeah, a lot of interesting things afoot. Obviously, the ongoing threat with China and trade wars, uncertainty in the Middle East, all sorts of things that could at least make you stroke your chin and say, what is going on over there? And historically, for the last 4+ years at least, our market here in the U.S. has ignored all of that. So it may be past its prologue. We're going to ignore it again coming into the new year, and markets are just going to be green. We're just going to go up. AI will solve all problems at the end of the day, but who knows? We shall see out there. That is the subject of our question of the week. We'll get to that a little bit later. VVIX at a 97 right now, down a full point as well. Mr. Uncle Mike, I know you and I could probably fill the rest of the show with our reminiscences of the Saturday night's main event. If you caught this weekend, the return of it, then by all means, give us your thoughts. If you have any thoughts on the one, the only Jesse the Body, have at it. And then B, what's catching your eye in an Uncle Mike mostly type of day, unless you're hanging out in the Dow?
Well, a little bit of irony for this trivia contest. I wasn't able to watch Saturday night's main event, but I just knew that Jesse the Body was brought back, and that's how I won the trivia question. So, it's kind of crazy when you think about it. But no, I always was a big fan of Jesse the Body Ventura. Even in his biggest heel days at the WrestleManias, he'd always say hi to his family at the beginning of the show. The way he would just have a different perspective on things. One of my favorites was when I think it was Uncle Elmer was getting married, and I guess Jesse said right before the Uncle Elmer in-ring wedding, Vince McMahon told him to just rip on everything, Uncle Elmer, and everything about the South and everything that he could possibly think of. And it was just, he said that Vince had to just mute because he was laughing so hard the entire time with it. So Jesse the Body was a character. I remember he was an XFL broadcaster in the original XFL back in 2001. And he would get into these feuds with it. He'd like say bad stuff about the coaches and mock the coaches from the booth. And then the coaches would get into it. And the last thing that you want to do as a football coach is to get into a war of words with Jesse the Body Ventura during a football game. And only Jesse the Body Ventura would have the skills to bait a professional football coach into doing such a thing. So Jesse was quite the man in terms of being an entertainer. With that being said, this market is quite the man lately in that we're approaching all-time highs again. We are, I believe, 19 points away in the S&P 500. So there's a chance on Thursday. Might be doing my thing or might be getting to say my trademark saying, but we'll see. But we are very close. Bonds are they are flat on the day. Silver's up a little bit, not too much north of flat, and so is gold just a little bit, not too much north of flat, if you will. But the bigger stories on the markets today, I think, is just some of the big names that are moving. Andrew mentioned it a little bit before the show. We were talking about Apple. Apple's at new all-time highs, 251 right now. And the resilience of this company never ceases to amaze me. And it's a very strong company, and they're good at what they do. Even if they don't have it, they set the bar very high with changing the world. And if they don't change the world, everyone seems to be mad at them. But then they buy their stuff anyway. So they've done a very good job with all of that. And then a couple other names that I'm seeing out there that are having some moves. Of course, Tesla, that's up over just under 5% on the day. So Tesla, that's having a big move. Of course, Bitcoin is up, but Bitcoin's always up. What do I know about Bitcoin? But eventually, I think it will have its day, but not yet, apparently. Google, a.k.a. Alphabet, up over 4% on the day. Cover your ears, Mark. Ford is actually down 4% on the day. And then Amazon's up just under 2% on the day. So we do have some big movers today in terms of where things are going. This is going to be... I have a lot of stocks that are kind of on the borderline right now going into the expiration week for our covered call program. So I'll be a busy man on Monday doing things, most likely, but we'll see where the ball bounces for the rest of this week. Back to you, Monsoon.
He did call for at one point on the show, Mr. Uncle Mike. He did call, harkening back to the XFL days you mentioned. He did call for the return of the no fair catch rule that they had in the XFL. I don't think that's going to fly in the modern NFL days. More concussive trauma rather than less, but I thought that was kind of funny. He did bring up XFL during his announcing stint out here this weekend. All right, Mr. Rock Lobster, it is your turn. If you have any enduring memories of one Jesse the Body, could be as a wrestler, which you probably don't, could be in Predator, could be in The Running Man, another great Arnold movie that he was in, people forget about. Maybe you enjoyed his time as a governor, or I think he hosted a conspiracy show, done quite a few things. What are your enduring memories of one Jesse the Body, Feather Boa, and all? Then B, what is catching your eye out there in the market, sir?
I guess Predator was it. He was really good in Predator.
I've heard that he ain't got time to bleed. I've heard that. I've heard that.
That sort of the I don't know, like the, you know, he definitely had a thing going on. And but anyway, I digress. So that's all I remember. Like the commando style cowboy hat kind of thing. Every guy had their own look in that show, in that movie. Market wise, again, it's feeling like we got the blow off quantum computing, AVGO $1 trillion company. It's killing me is I not long ago, because like, okay, this is on my list of stocks, if it dipped below a certain price to buy some. I was waiting for like 150. Didn't quite get there. Now it's 250. So I missed by $5, and now it's up another 100. So it will never cease to amaze me how, okay, they beat by whatever. Okay, so their earnings were good, but you get like $70 out of the stock when it's already an $800 billion market cap. So anyway, that's the market. I totally miss buying these, buying these shares, although I do own some SMH, so that ETF is, let's just say easily kept pace with the S&P 500. So, if you don't want to just buy one chip stock, that's not a bad alternative. As far as the market goes, it's a Monday, stock up, VIX up. We talked about a little last week, like VIX it just can't, like, you feel like it should be around 12 and it's 14 and change. And it probably will be that way till the Fed opines about rates. Last time I looked, inflation's going back up again. It's not going down from last year. It's going up. So why they would cut is totally beyond me. But I think right now the market is more feeding off of, like animal spirits, bullish expectations, whatever. Market likes what they're hearing. We're going to replace one administration with another. So, but I think that whatever that vol is, mostly because in general this year, when there's been volatility, except for that, August 5th, carry trade. Remember that day when you could have bought the S&P 500 for 5,000 or was it 4,000 even? It's hard for me to think how low it was at the time. Maybe it was 5,000, I think. That was really kind of the only black mark this year on the market. Yeah, it was $5,000. Listen, this is a market where SPY puts are going to die. And at least for right now, even with the bond market kind of drifting lower, tech is winning. That's been the story. 2024 was the story. 2023, right? Kind of AI started the story, and the market is going to feast off of good earnings. It always has. It always will, as far as I know. So that's what we got. So I think we're going to be close to an all-time high here. I think we definitely are at all-time high in the queue. So. And I think that's where the vol's coming from. It's just the market just keeps going in one direction.
That it does, listeners. Let's see what we can find in that direction and indeed in the market. Is it a wild day out there on the options front? Well, again, kind of depends where you're looking out there. But across the board, for the most part, I'd say, well, with the exception of a few notable exceptions in the index spot, and we'll get there in a second. Well, we kick things off in VIX land as we are wont to do. And VIX not exactly roaring out of the gate today. This is kind of par for the course with VIX land right now. 447, and that sounds kind of light, and it is, but then again, you hear the ADV just continuing to drop down below 700K now, 696, so that puts that 447 in a little bit different context. That looks a little better when you see that. It is that time of the year, listeners. I mean, December 15th has historically been the low for most vol products during the year. You go look at V-Stocks, that is literally the low for the past year out there. So we're in that time, listeners, and VIX volume reflecting that. 447 on the tape today. It looks like a lot of the paper is folks just kind of capitulate and get the hell out of Dodge for the rest of the year for the holiday. With the big prints today, 44,000 of the D's 20s for a whopping 6 cents. So it seems like maybe somebody trying to find a bid for whatever's left of those before the end of this. These go out in a couple of days, obviously, so they're getting the heck out of Dodge now. The same thing with the D's 13 puts, 42,000 of those going up this morning, right around the same time. It wasn't exactly a spread, but they're about 45 minutes apart. And that was for a penny. So some folks either specking or getting the hell out of Dodge. I don't know if they found a penny bid for these, maybe. Probably, maybe putting some on just to roll the bones for settlement, but interesting stuff out here nonetheless. But it seems like folks kind of hitting the exits, at least throughout the rest of this week for VIX land. SPY seems like it hasn't even woken up yet for the day. 3.69 million. We haven't seen SPY below 4 million this time in the show in a long time. 7.03 is the ADV. There's a question whether we're even going to hit that today out there in SPY land. Usually SPY is usually good for at least 4 1/3, maybe 4.5 million this time of the show, if not a full million more than this. So SPY looking weirdly sleepy. It's even weirder when you see that the S is looking kind of hot right now. SPX 1.85 million. We don't see that too often. Usually if the S is having a good day, SPY is, and vice versa. Today, I guess somebody coming, maybe some size conversion reversals going up in the S, something along those lines. I'm not sure what is driving the flow out here, up to 1.9 million now. Let's look really quickly. We're going to do our fun little check because why not? We got one print in the top 20, the Jan 50-30 puts, end of month Jan. 42,000 of those, actually two of those. 42,000 each of the Jan end of month 50-30 and 50-80 puts, both opening. So maybe a size 50, 80, 50, 30 put spread going up. 42,773 times. That's pretty much it for the outside the top. Actually, I take it back. There's a few expiring on the 20th this week as well. 61 half calls. That looks like that's a conversion reversal. That's about 25,000 each. So that's 50,000 contracts. That's not enough to put the S over the top the way it is. But either way, a lot of paper in the S. Not so much in SPY out there today, listeners. You like that? You like that vertical, listeners? Jan, end of month, expiring on the 31st. 50, 80, 50, 30 put spread. I don't see the prices on this, but either way, that's one of the few sizable non-expiring today prints in a decently hot day in the S. What's up with small caps? Are they hot? Yeah, they're 909,000 right now. The ADV 1.4 million. So a weird day. S is hot. Small caps are hot. VIX is not, nor is SPX, or nor is SPY. So yeah, weird day on the index front. And just to make things even weirder, Qs are roaring out of the gate as well. 2.8 million contracts on the tape right now for the Qs. Actually, I just re-racked it as we were talking here. Listen, they've added some more. 2.93, so closing in on 3 million already. That's not that far from where the ADV was not too long ago. The ADV is now up to 4.13 million. So the Q's looking hot as well. So it's a weirdly sleepy day in SPY and somewhat in the S, or somewhat in VIX. And then everything else on the index front is hot. Is it equally hot in single names, listeners? I would say it's more than respectable. I would say over 400K is a banger, but we're getting pretty close to that. Cost you 388,000 to break into the top 10 today. Let's get you to good old Monster, aka MicroStrategy, ticker symbol MSTR. We should start calling it Monster. The thing's on the rampage yet again. 436 1/4, up 2760 or 6 3/4%. Just today, 388K is what this one's putting on the tape today. So a monster day for the monster. that's not enough M tech love for you. Let's go out to number 9. Micron, 411,000 contracts, also looking like a monster today. 109.84, up 770 or 7.5%. Popping hard out here in Monstar. Analyst says earnings could take a hit, but it's a buying opportunity. Okay. Awesome. That's why we love analysts, listeners. So that looks like some analyst-driven fun out there. Number 9, 411,000 contracts. Number 8, let's go to our A tech zone. Kick it off in AMD, 479,000 contracts. AMD just feeling some reflected love, it seems like. 127.30, up about 40 cents or about 1/3%. Not exactly a wild day for them, even though they did have some action earlier. They sold off from 126 down to 123.5, and then actually 123.12, and then have been rallying back since. So I guess if you count in that early little flummox out there, it's been a little bit more active day for AMD, even though net right now not doing a heck of a lot. AMD number 8, 479 on the tape for them. That's what I mean about it was a weird day to start off. We saw some red early, then now some green fighting through. Now Dow fighting red again. All kinds of weirdness out there. Number 7, it's SMCI. All the other chip names getting love. This one can't catch a bid. It's off 267 today, or 7.33%, even though it was down earlier today at 31.20. So it's up about $2.50 from there, almost exactly. But it is off the high for the day of 35.38 as well. So kind of a weird one for SMCI. I know this name has been all over the place of late. They had accounting problems and maybe not, and all sorts of other issues. SMCI, 486,000 contracts. Number 7, the artist formerly known as Google, now Alphabet Class A, 198.92, up $9.10 as well. $9 is the magic number today, up nearly 5%, 4.75%. 520,000 contracts for them. And the number 6 spot. Number 5, new all-time highs for the fruit company, 543 on the tape for them today. 251.08, just off their new high of 251.38. Up nearly $3 right now, 1.2%. You know, people have been looking down on the folding phones and Android forever. Oh, they have a crease. Apple will never do that. Guess what Apple's doing? They're going into the folding phone business. So at least that's the rumor. So obviously the market may be liking that. Maybe anything at this point that could potentially gin up some iPhone sales, I think the market likes. We'll see if Apple can get rid of that crease. I have a folding phone myself right now. It's kind of cool. It's a big thing to have in your pocket, but it is kind of cool in those moments when you want that extra screen. And then, you know, you kind of, after a point, you don't really see the crease much anymore. They've gotten better at those. So we'll see what Apple can do on that front. Either way, number 5, Apple, 543. Number 4, this one's been a wild one to watch of late as well. A lot of people have been hitting me up about this name as well. Someone mentioning it over the weekend as well, I think, which was, they said to them that was someone outside of the usual financial circles, which to them was a sign that maybe this was the top for this name. I've been kind of wondering that myself lately as well. Just so many people hitting me up about it that are outside the normal circles. I'm talking about Palantir, ticker symbol PLTR. I've joked about getting run over on this name not that long ago, selling the 10 puts. We are far from that strike now. 73.94, off 214 or nearly 3% today. This one had a wild day today as well. 71.16 on the low, 77.82, nearly $78 on the high. They rallied out of the gate hard. Of course, they're being added to the NASDAQ. Palantir was moving hard today. Then apparently everyone decided they did not like that, and they crushed it all the way down to 70. So they went from about $78, listeners, to 71.63 this morning. And then they since have slowly been kind of fighting their way back up to a little bit shy of 74, 73.92 right now. So a wild day for Palantir. This is another one. They giveth and they taketh away out here. Interesting stuff out here. Number 4, 760 for Palantir. Number 3, the Rock Lobster's new favorite. It's AVGO, a.k.a. Broadcom. Are they going to be a new frequent offender in the top 10? They seem like they're on that trajectory, listeners. Number 3, 900K for Broadcom today. 248 even, up 23.20 or 10.3%. My goodness, hot business out here. We might have a fun little AVGO print to maybe talk about in the odd block in a little bit. Maybe a trade of the year contender. Number 3, AVGO, 900K. Number 2, Tesla, 2.23 million. Tesla looking hot on the volume front, looking hot over the last few months as well. Remember when they were threatening 200K in the wrong direction? 213 on October 23rd. Yeah, they're 459.60 right now, listeners. Up another $23 or 5.3%. Why? Who knows? Day that ends in Y. Musk getting in cahoots with Trump seems to be at least good for the stock. At least that's what people are thinking out here. Even though they can't really make any money on electric cars, And if you buy an electric car, it loses more than half of its value in about a year and a half, maybe 2 years. So everyone says, don't even buy them. I'm looking at new cars right now, listeners, and everyone's like, do not buy an EV if you're going to lease it because they lose all their value. So yeah, that's interesting. You can't make money on your business, but the stock is rampaging. Interesting stuff. Maybe it's the robots. The Robovin going to save them, listeners. Either way, number 2, Tesla, 2.23 million. And the big dog, but just managing just to barely eke out Tesla today. It's NVIDIA, listeners, 2.46 million. 131.5, off about 2 3/4 or 2%. They've been kind of in sell-off mode ever since China started peaking at their biz. Usually not a good sign when the Chinese government's taking another look at you. Maybe you forgot to grease the right wheels out there. Either way, that might mean trouble ahead. And that seems like that's been weighing on the stock pretty much ever since. They were up at 141 not that long ago, less than a week ago, now down to 131. So giving up some of their upside, off about 6% just in the past 5 days. And continuing that sell-off today, off about 2.25%, 2.46 million for NVIDIA. And lest you think we are done with earnings, you know, we're coming into the tail end, I would say. The dregs of the season, if you will, but there's still some hot names to pay attention to. We were just talking about Micron earlier. They're popping off on Wednesday after the bell. We've also got a Lenner on Wednesday after the bell. Steelcase, if you're into phone accessories, a hot name out there. Birkenstock, if you're into sandals, on the morning on Wednesday. Oh, the meatball. I wish the meatball was on the show. Darden Restaurants, his beloved Darden Restaurants. Can't get enough of Darden, that guy. That's before the bell on Thursday. And we got some fun names after the bell on Thursday as well. FedEx and Nike. And we got Carnival on Friday. So we still got some hot names. If you're looking for some names you've actually heard of, you might want to trade an option or two around, listeners. In terms of earnings move results, obviously nothing really popping off before the bell today. Coming up this week, listeners, we do have some hot names updated, hot off the presses, because we like you folks out here. Check out the website if you want to see all this for yourselves, completely for free, because we really like you folks. You know, we've been doing this for nearly 18 years. We must like you at this point. Kids who were born when we almost started this network can now almost vote. So there we go, listeners. I guess we like you folks. Micron, after the bell, like we said, 18th, 102.5. 1284, my goodness. 1284 is what they're pricing in. The past, they've moved 691. So not quite 2x on the straddle front, but pretty darn close. You can say that's a lot, but they're also popping almost that much just today. $7 just today. So is it too much? I don't know. Maybe we're in a new regime here for Micron, listeners. We got to talk about the meatballs favorite, Darden Restaurants. 19th before the bell. 166.70 is where it's trading. They were pricing it. Man, another one. 860 is what they were pricing in. In the past, they've moved 4 3/4. So almost $4 worth of extra juice in Darden Restaurants. What the heck is going on in Darden Restaurants? So they're pricing in nearly 2x the juice. Stock outlook mixed as Olive Garden lags. Well, you know what? If Olive Garden ain't bringing the kids to the yard, then what's going to do it? Maybe those tasty biscuits from Red Lobster, is that part of it? I always forget what is in the Darden Restaurants holdings. But either way, looking spicy, looking juicy. A FedEx 19th after the bell, 283.5 is where they were trading. They're pricing in $25.94. In the past, they moved $20.61. So over $5 worth of extra juice in FedEx. Man, what's popping off in FedEx? And let's see if that's a trend. Listeners, we're going to go 4 for 4. Let's go out to Nike after the bell on Friday. 77.25. They're pricing in $5.89. We got a whammy here. They were in the past, they've moved $6.44. So a little bit less juice in Nike, which apparently they haven't gotten the memo for this season, because this season is a banger. 123% is how we're hanging out right now, listeners. Our long-term average, 114%. I got to imagine it's going to be ticking up after this cycle concludes pretty shortly out here. Man, buy and vol. People have always asked us for years, what should I do going into earnings? Should I buy vol or sell vol? We always said there really was no right answer. This kind of 50-50. This is one of the few years where I could have said, yeah, pretty much if you bought vol 9 times out of 10, you did pretty well. Just the numbers are ridiculous. We kept waiting for this to change, and so far this year, it has not come to pass. So wild stuff out here on the earnings front as we keep on going. Is there wild stuff to be found in unusual activity? I don't know. Let's find out. It is time for the Odd Block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Odd Block, the portion of the show where we get weird, we get wild, we get sometimes whimsical. Let's do a final payoff because now it has officially. We talked about it last Thursday, but there still was a day left. Anything could have happened, but it wasn't trending well. This was, of course, the paper we profiled last week on the show. This was MLCO Resorts and Entertainment. And with the stock right around 712, we've already detailed the year of MLCO several times. I won't go back through it again, listeners. The stock was $7.12, and somebody last week, exactly a week ago on the show, just had to have it. They had to have the upside in MLCO. They came in and gobbled up 7,030 of the D7s expiring last Friday on the 13th. They lifted the offer for 35 cents. It was about a 94 vol, so you're talking almost triple-digit vol. They just had to have it. And Uncle Mike and I were both kind of mystified by this one last week, just saying, you know what? MLCO Resorts, not a name. It's not a biotech. It's not a crazy AI name. It's not a name that you would traditionally associate with this kind of gotta-have-it weekly paper. There was no earnings, no obvious catalyst that would drive this kind of... It seemed like a bit of a head-scratcher. It seemed like they were throwing away some money. Now, they were slightly in the money, so that helped them a little bit, but it just seemed like a head-scratching trade. It wasn't trending in the right direction on Thursday, and now we can officially call it, listeners. On Friday, the stock closed at $6.76. So by my math, that is below the 7 strike. So those 7 calls, all 7,000 of 30 of them, unfortunately, were still open, Uncle Mike. And this trader threw away about almost exactly $250,000 on a bit of a head-scratching roll of the dice. Uncle Mike, we were kind of scratching our heads last week, and it seems like we were right, sir. This was money that was just thrown away for no seeming reason, sir.
Yeah, I'm not understand why they picked that strike price. That one kind of boggled my mind.
The Rock Lobster's performance in the trivia also boggles my mind, but that is a conversation. Statistically, you should have gotten a few of them right by now. But I digress. Let's keep rolling. Let's go out here to some new paper for this week. We can stick a fork in MLCO. They are done. Think about what you could have done with $250,000 over the last week, listeners. This person chose to throw it away on useless upside in MLCO. Well, let's go out to BigBear.ai Holdings. You know they're hot because they have AI in your name. Even if you're a restaurant, you should change your name to AI at this point. It just leads to stock gains like crazy. Big Bear AI Holdings trading $2.86, up 34 cents. They have AI-powered decision intelligence solutions for defense, manufacturing, and warehouse operations. So they're all over the place. They'll drive the forklifts with AI in your warehouse. They'll power your missile defense. Who knows? All kinds of AI at BigBear.ai Holdings. On the year, it's got AI in the name, so I'm going to guess it probably was a decent year, and that was the case. It was $1.78 a year ago. So they're up a little over $1, about $1.10 or 60%. Not their first rodeo, though. They rallied it hard back in March to 433. Might have even hit 480 intraday, because that says that is their high. I must have hit that on that day. Yeah, so intraday got to 480 on March 4th. And almost immediately gave it back. By March 12th, it was 233. And then they kept selling off. It got somewhere along the way, it got down to $1.16. Looks like that was right around August 5th. Then it kind of languished there for a while. It had drifted north by the election up to about $1.73 again. And then on November 15th, it hit another gear. It started popping. And it got back up again to 366 on December 9th. And then once again, past its prologue with this name, they just gave it all up again. They crushed it back down to $2.50 on December 13th. And now we find ourselves clawing our way back up 35 cents to about 285 right now. So it's been kind of an upside downside giveth and taketh year out here. What did we find out here this morning in good old BigBear.ai Holdings, listeners? Well, you can probably guess a lot of call love, and that was indeed the case. What first caught our eye was a big print of 6,509 of the March 3/2, so roughly 70 cent or so, close to it, out of the money calls. They traded for $1. Actually, when they went up, the stock was higher. The stock was 306, so that puts them a little bit interesting. So now about 44 cent out of the money calls, listeners. Still rich, still juicy, but not quite as wild. They were still a 189 vol if you are intrigued. Now, worth noting, this one at least has a catalyst baked in. There are earnings on March 6th, so you are going to get one roll of the bones in between now and expiration, which our friend at MLCO had nothing that we could see along those lines to drive that price. So they paid 35 cents for just a week. This person's paying $1. That's rich when the stock's 286. So, hey, you could say at least they're getting all the way out to March and they get an earnings with it. I don't know, Mr. Rock Lobster, we talked about this before. The stock itself was just $1.16 not too long ago, and now we've got, actually they came back for more. A total of 12,000 of these March 3/2 have now traded today for prices around $1. Are you a fan of these BigBear.ai Holdings Inc. March 3/2 for $1, sir?
It almost feels like kind of a comical name for the company.
It is. It seemed like it was generated by AI, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, they just needed a title before the AI. I feel like. What are we gonna call it? I don't know. Big Bear. Let's call it Big Bear. We just gotta have the AI. It's it's a $3 stock. They're paying $1 for the March calls. What are you gonna do? I don't hate it. Just because of all of the, the razzle dazzle in these companies, I don't think it's an unreasonable call to purchase. But again, sub $3, just buy the stock when it comes down to it. But I don't think it's unreasonable. But they're buying some duration. I think you probably will, given this market in AI, you probably see something out of those.
In case you're wondering, this one launched as part of a SPAC back in December 7th of 2020. Remember those, Mr. Rock Lobster? They were all the rage for a brief time, and BigBear.ai is one of those, launching back in December of 2021. Listeners, at a $1.4 billion enterprise value. I have to go check and see what it is right now. But yes, headier times back in December of 2021. You like these, listeners? Are you a fan? Would you just buy the stock, or you get the hell out of Dodge on these? At least for your $1, you're getting through March. Again, this person bought them on MLCO for a week, 35 cents, with absolutely nothing to show for it. So I hate to keep harping on them, but that one was kind of inexplicable. Unless there was some unknown catalyst lurking there in MLCO that we missed, which is certainly possible. Not a name we follow day to day, but it just seemed like a weird one. Hence its inclusion. Oh, let's keep going, listeners. Let's go out to, you always like it when newcomers make it into the odd block. Today's newcomer is RMNI Street Inc., ticker symbol RMNI. They are owners, they're out of Las Vegas, but they're owners of RMNI Street Malaysia and other things out here. Trading $2.50, up about 50 cents or about 28% today. So, wow, that pop just came recently. It was $2 all day until about an hour ago, and all of a sudden they're popping up to $2.50. So, this name on the rampage. But then again, looking at this chart, no bueno. A year ago, they were 307, so they're off about 18% still on the year. Even though they were looking a lot worse on Halloween, they were $1.50. So they're up a full $1 from there, including a good jump, about 50 cents of that just today for some reason. I'll have to go see what is, did they add AI to their name? Whatever, something is driving this bad boy up. More buyers than sellers today, listeners. Either way, RMNI Street, somebody looking like they like a little bit of upside. They came in this morning, Mr. Rock Lobster, with the stock at 2.25, so actually a little bit lower. They said, these 2.5s, how are they? They got no bid. No bid. They weren't going to pay anything for these. At 15 cents. Now, again, these do go out this week, so this is a very short-term trade. So that no bid makes a little more sense. Even though I got a feeling they'd pay a penny for those. But I digress. And this person came in and said, I'm going to buy 2,094 of them for 15 cents. Going to roll those bones. There are earnings, but obviously not in the lifespan of this option. They're coming up in February, so no earnings for this trader. But Mr. Rock Lobster, seems like they're on the winning side of this trade so far today. The stock is now at their strike. So we always say if you're buying a weekly option, you got to have that move pretty freaking quick, and it's got to be decisive. They certainly have that. I don't know if they've gotten out of these bad boys yet. I might have to go look. Maybe I'll do that while you talk about these, Mr. Rock Lobster. What are your thoughts on these RMNI D's 2.5s?
We seem like we're trolling the bottom of the sub $5 stock area. it seems like a real company. Subscription-based software products. It looks like they support Oracle and SAP, probably making all this database stuff easier to use. I guess my biggest problem here is, I mean, it feels like it's a little close to the vest with duration. Obviously, I would have liked to see that a little bit more time than just having it next week, but or this week. But I mean, it has a shot, but they are up money on the day, and the stock, I mean, it could do it. They just need to have the action. But huge jump in vol. It could happen. It looks like they're kind of front running some news or some kind of release. Looks like they're gonna. It does have a good chance to win, although you just not very much time with 4 days to go.
I will say they started off nibbling. They came out and said, "What's the market on these?" They got no bid at a nickel. They said, we'll pay a nickel. They only got 200, Mr. Rock Lobster. Then they came back, said, how are they now? They got no bid at 15 cents. The market makers wised up, and they said, okay, we'll buy 2,094 for 15 cents. So they moved the market pretty quickly. They even traded 35 cents at one point, looks like about half an hour later, only a couple of hundred. But they have not gotten out of these yet, so there's only been about 800 or so total have traded. And looks like a lot of them have been buying at different prices. So they have not gotten out yet. The clock is ticking, listeners. We shall see. The clock's also ticking with the show. That means it's time to get to Uncle Mike. It is time for the strategy block.
It's time to dispense options, wit, wisdom, and education. It's time for the strategy block.
All right, everybody. Uncle Mike, the listeners all are waiting on pins and needles for your strategy block, dissecting Jesse the Body's feathered boa collection. Have at it, sir. The floor is yours.
Oh man, you don't want to go there, Mark. Your bandwidth it'll just take too long on that. If you want to get me going on Jesse the Body Ventura, I can talk Jesse the Body Ventura from his AWA days, from when he claimed to be touring the country with REO Speedwagon, how he knew Warren Zevon. Don't know if any of those things are true, but by gosh, I can go on quite a bit about Jesse the Body Ventura. We don't want to go down that road. But the road we do want to go down is FOMO. And I'm going to say it, no mo FOMO. And so if you're concerned of the fear of missing out, and you're concerned of buying the market at these levels right now, yes, we are 17 points away from an all-time high in the S&P 500. And this is a really big all-time high because the market went up quite a bit this year. But you're also looking at it and you're thinking, good gosh, we're up 30 points on a day, a couple days before the Fed. It's in December. People should be vacationing. Why are they trading right now? But man, this market is never going to quit. I got to get in on it, but I'm scared. Or let's say you have all these stocks. Should I sell them? I don't want to sell them. I want the market to go up. I'm scared I'm going to miss out, but I'm scared it's going to go down. If you have that fear, what I'd like to talk to you guys about today is buying put options. You can buy puts on the individual names with which you own, or you can buy them on index should the index match the stocks with which you own. You don't want to take the capital gains on them because let's say that they're not in an IRA, then you do have choices. Right now, the VIX is towards the little bit tilted towards the lower end of its typical range, I would say. Of course, it doesn't mean it can't go lower. It doesn't mean it can't go higher. But if you have this concern and you want to have your cake and eat it too, I've been preaching this for the last couple of months now, buy some index puts, buy some individual name puts. With the VIX at these prices, you can still participate on the upside and you have protection to the downside. Now, with that being said, how do you execute these puts, or what should you do with them? Should you buy in the money, at the money, out of the money? Should you buy index? Should you buy individuals? How can I determine such a thing? I'm actually going to be doing a webinar on that in approximately 7 minutes and 10 seconds. For more information on it, go to adaptivewebinars.com. But in the meantime, the strategy that I think makes a lot of sense these last few weeks of 2024 going into 2025. If you don't have this as an allocation in your portfolio as of yet, I would strongly suggest looking into it. Now, how much of it, that's up to you and your individual situation. Long stock, long put in some way, shape, or form. And that is my strategy for today.
All right, listeners, now it's time for us to keep on going and go around the block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, everybody, let's dance. Let's go around the block right now. And before we have everybody tell you what they're keeping an eye on, let's keep an eye on our own question of the week, shall we, listeners? It's a hot one out of the gate right now. And it's also one of our last questions of the week for this year, listeners. So crazy, wild how this week has unfolded and this year has unfolded. We said, as you're looking ahead to 2025, how are you positioning the equity portion of your portfolio? We gave you 4 choices. But again, if you don't see yours, you're always welcome to reply or DM with your suggestion. And we said, hey, no change right now. Markets only go up. You're in the Uncle Mike camp. Just buy and hold and grin and bear it. Or you're maybe a little bit nervous at this point, so you're starting to scale back or go a little bit into cash. Or you're staying fully long, but you're still a little nervous, so you're going to do what Uncle Mike was just talking about and maybe aggressively hedge that portfolio. Maybe you're saying, you know what, I'm kind of done with this right now. I'm taking my money and I'm going to pivot into another asset class, maybe metals, maybe crypto, fixed income, whatever floats your boat out there. We already have some fun write-ins. Always good for a fun comment is Mr. Griffin. He says, like a cautious squirrel preparing for winter, strategically stashing my nuts, he puts in parentheses equities, in diverse places to ensure I have enough to munch on, no matter what the market weather brings, complete with a squirrel emoji. He always brings a smile to my face. Well done, Mr. Griffin. I'm glad to see you are stashing your nuts strategically throughout the marketplace out there. Mr. Rock Lobster, we'll start with you. What do you think our audience is voting for? Are they just going to leave their equities alone? They're going to start scaling back? Are they going to aggressively hedge, maybe pivot to something else? And then what are you keeping an eye on for the rest of the week until the Thursday show, sir?
Very interesting question. I think they're going to leave them alone. I think they're going to leave their equities alone. And me, I'm kind of always have a little hedge on, and then when the market drops, I just close it and take that money and go buy some stock with it. So anyway, that's kind of my gig. And keeping on, well, we got the Fed, are they 25 basis points, 95% chance or something. So are we going to follow those dopey Europeans again? Or are we going to go our own path and not cut because the government spends too much money? We'll see. But I think that is definitely the thing holding. We got vol up, market up. So that's what's holding stuff up for now.
Mr. Uncle Mike, same question for you. I know how you vote, so you don't need to vote, but how do you think our audience is voting? Are they scaling back their equities? Are they going to cash? Are they leaving things the same? Are they staying long but aggressively hedging? Are they pivoting to some other asset class? And then B, what are you keeping an eye on until the Thursday show?
I think they are staying the flow. I think they're continuing to hold their equities. In terms of what I'm looking at, in addition to the Fed, as the Rock Lobster just said, wanting to see if we can go into the Fed at new all-time highs, or at least exit the Fed at new all-time highs. And I'm also watching how the bonds actually react to what the Fed does, because as we've talked about on this show before, sometimes the people that want to buy and sell bonds don't agree with what the Fed is doing, and they create their own market.
Yes, they do indeed. Let's see what you folks are choosing, listeners, right now. And actually, again, this early voting just went live a little bit ago. But in the early voting, listeners, you folks are choosing to scale back or go to cash, 42.9%. So you're saying, I'm going to take my ball and go home. Can't exactly argue with you. It's been a good run so far. We got a tie pretty much for number 2, both about 28% for no change. Markets only go up. And you're staying long, but you're aggressively hedging. No one right now is pivoting into gold or crypto or anything like that yet. But then the week is young. We shall see how this voting unfolds. Add options, the place to go on Twitter/X to make your voice heard. And Mr. Rock Lobster, where should folks go if they want to hear more from you in between episodes of the show, sir?
Yeah, 888-TRADE-01. Look for the relaunch of Flash 10 in probably February next year. Hugely successful investing with options product we had. So look at that. Or any of my products. You can make money on all my products. So come on over to optionpit.com and earn while you learn. There you go. We've been doing it for 12, 13 years now. So what the heck? We might know something about this option stuff.
All right, and Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, where should they go if they want more Uncle Mike goodness, or perhaps to discuss the plethora of feathered boas, it has even me say, the legion of feathered boas of one Jesse the Body, sir?
By all means, follow me on Twitter at Mike Tosaw. Also, you can check out my website, stcharleswealth.com. And if you want to see the webinar coming up here in 2 minutes, go to adaptivewebinars.com.
There you go, adaptivewebinars.com, the place to go to kick the tires and light the fires. And Rock Lobster said before, learn while you earn, or earn while you learn, I should say. How about earning while you trade? If you want to do that, go to public.com/optionblock. That is literally one of the easiest ways you can support the show and indeed the network that's been coming to you for nigh on 18 years. Wild. Crazy to say that out loud. But yes, that is the case. You want to keep those shows coming. Support the folks who support these shows, including our friends over there at Public. They've been big supporters of the network throughout the year on a variety of shows. One way you could thank them is by going to public.com/optionblock. While you're there, maybe you kick the tires and light the fires on a little bit of a rebate. I was just looking right now and putting in some fun stub trades in and around VIX and this week, and I was like, man, on this platform, these commissions are more than the trade is worth. Not the case on Public, listeners. They're going to actually pay you a rebate. Not the worst thing in the world. Public.com/optionblock to learn more. And again, a great way to support the shows that have been coming to you for nigh on 18 years. Speaking of things coming to you, we're not done, not by a long shot. We'll be back in a little bit talking Uncle Mike's favorite, all things crypto. Our buddy Greg Magadini, man, he's been hot on that one lately. He'll be back again in a little bit to break down all the wild vol, new highs, new record levels in Bitcoin, rising tide, lifting all boats. It's a wild time. We got IBIT options now. Everyone, even reluctant crypto folks like Dr. Vix have been getting lured back to the fold by all the juice out there in IBIT. We had Mr. Matt talking about recently IBIT luring him to the dark side. So there's even folks who are maybe a little skeptical. You know what? They can't resist the volume and the volatility, and there's certainly that in spades out there. So join the party, the Crypto Rundown. Then back again tomorrow, of course, for all of our pro friends, theoptionsinsider.com/pro, where you too can get your hands on a little bit of pro Q&A action. And then back again with our usual array of content until we're back again on Thursday. Flowmaster in tow, another episode of the Option Block. Stay safe out there, everybody.
If you trade options, you want to be smart about every decision. So why not choose the smartest platform for your trades? At public.com, you can view upcoming earnings dates directly in the options chain. You can queue and execute multiple orders simultaneously. Easily view contract performance over time. And if you have a question about any stock, you can ask Alpha, their AI for investors. But want to know the smartest part of trading options on Public? Earning rebates on every single contract traded. No other platform provides options trading rebates, and they reduce your trading costs to less than $0 per trade. So, make the smart move and switch. The only options trading platform where you can earn rebates on every single contract traded. To learn more, please visit public.com/optionblock. Paid for by Public Investing. Options not suitable for all investors and carry significant risk. Full disclosures in podcast description. U.S. members only. You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's MIXLR.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions@theoptionsinsider.com.